guys. So sorry for my shitty laptop quality where my hands look blurry when I move them. I'm sorry. Um, this is gonna be my paranormal vlog. I've seen a lot of these around, and I'm also apologize for my voice. I'm sick, but I've seen a lot of these around, and I thought they were interesting, and I thought I'd share my story. So, uh, I think it started when I was like 6 years old. I had an imaginary friend. And I don't really remember a whole lot about her. The only thing that stood out to me was that she didn't have, I don't remember her having eyes. Like, she had, the sockets, but they were just black. There was no blood. There was no, stuff coming out. It wasn't, gross or anything. They're just kind of, she had her eyelids and stuff, but just inside was black. It wasn't I don't know, demon eye contacts or something like that. But, those didn't exist at the time either, as far as I know. So, I had her as an imaginary friend, and I recall, only seeing her once or twice in school, and she'd ask me to come play. Most of the times, I just heard her in my walls. I know ugh, no. I don't like to think about it, but she'd always be in my, she always talked to me from inside my walls, and, I don't remember what we'd talk about, but I remember one time I did get mad, and I told her to shut up, and I smacked the wall, and my wall was connected to my parents' room, and they heard that, and they came in, they were wondering what was going on, because it was 2 in the morning, and so there was all that, and after I smacked the wall, and I told her to shut up, I was 9 years old at the time. I'd had this imaginary friend for about 2 years. She disappeared. I never knew her name. She never really talked. She did talk, but most of it was just child stuff, like play with me, or, come here, or something like that, which is, looking back on it, it was really creepy, but I didn't really think it was creepy at the time. Sorry. And so there was that, and at the same time, my best friend, Erin, I think she's a year younger than I am. I was in the room when she was born. We've, known her whole life. She had an imaginary friend at the same time. She doesn't remember it, but her mom does, and I kind of do remember this as well. When she was 3 or 4 years old, I was 5 or 6 at the time. She had a best friend who was a young boy, probably 2 or 3 years old, who would sit in the corners, and her mom, according to her mom, and from what I remember, he would just kind of sit there, and Erin would giggle and point at nothing. And when her mom would ask, she'd say there was a boy on the wall. So that was creepy, and that we both had imaginary friends around the same time, and then they both stopped at the exact same time. And nothing happened. There was a good chunk of time where absolutely nothing happened. And I think the next time I noticed things was when I was 12 years old. Maybe it was just creeping myself out, because I was starting to get into scary movies and, the rated R things that your parents don't ever let you watch, so you do it when they're not home. I had started doing stuff like that, and I felt like a badass, and I was starting to read stuff similar to creepypastas, and, I'm so sorry. I can't help it. But I remember that I was addicted to the computer, and the thing that I remember the most is I had those shitty, $20 speakers that you can get as a set. They're on both sides and that tall. And mine weren't that high quality, but they did have Velcro on them, because my mom didn't like me moving them around and making my desk all cluttered and stuff, so she Velcroed them to the desk. And I remember sometimes I'd be reading creepy stuff, and then I would try to reassure myself while I was reading, haha, no, that's not real. And then, I'd think to myself something like that, and there were a couple times where my speakers just flew off of my desk, and they were a good 4 or 5 inches away from the edge, and they were Velcroed, so that was creepy, and so I started being really uncomfortable, and I stopped reading stuff like that for a long period of time, just because I had read, negative thoughts, blah, 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 invite stuff in your house, blah, 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 And so I figured that's what was happening, and so I stopped doing that. I forgot to mention, when I was 9 years old, I was still living in the house that I was born in, and I was on the second story, and I remember being 9 years old, and I'd hear tapping on my window. We didn't have trees in my backyard, nothing tall, nothing. There's not a whole lot of wind. It was just a consistent, steady tap, 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 and it just kept going. And you'd think that maybe like it was something in the wall. I don't know, but it sounded like a nail on a window, like a fingernail on the window. And my curtains were closed, and I remember picking up my cat and being so terrified because I was standing right in front of the window, but I couldn't get myself to pull the curtain aside because I was terrified that I would see a face. And that was creepy. I remember I tried to call out for my mom, and you know how like sometimes when you're just so scared, like your voice doesn't come out because you're not gonna be able to yell mom. It'll sound kind of like like that. That's kind of what it was. It was like that, and then I couldn't, and I was frozen. I remember staring at my window for about 20 or 30 minutes, just trying to call out to my mom. I was scared stiff. My cat was mad. He was growling, and I was afraid to let him go. I couldn't. But yeah, and then all the things with my speakers when I was 12 or 13. And then there was a good period of quietness, and then I moved to this house. And the first thing I noticed when I moved into this house is that it echoed a lot, and I had fun with that. I like to sing, I like to play guitar. The first couple days before we moved in, where everybody was just cleaning, I'd bring my guitar in and I'd try to record music videos and stuff like that. But I wasn't that great at the time either. I'm still not great. But and this room is in the corner of the house, because like we got our front door, and then we got stairs, and then there's some my parents' bedroom over here, game room, my sister's room, and then my room's right here, and it's like all the way in the corner. And my window lines up with somebody else's window, which is not cool at all. I hate it. I miss seeing a backyard, not somebody else screwing their husband. But sorry. But I did notice that my room was the darkest room in the house. It was originally the house originally belonged to a couple, very young couple. Well, maybe not young. I guess middle aged. My idea of age is skewed, but they were probably about 39, 40 years old. They hadn't had a kid. And this my bedroom used to be. Sorry, I'm like wiggling the camera. My bedroom used to be the husband's office, and when I got here and when I moved in, I really didn't feel welcome in my room. And I know it's like that sounds kind of like I don't know, like, oh, I'm spiritually advanced. I can sense when I'm welcome and when I'm not welcome. Ooh, spirits. It wasn't. I'm not trying to sound like that because that's not the case at all. But I did notice that I felt uncomfortable in my room. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be in here. I'm looking at my fish tank. Sorry. It was just all over a very unpleasant feeling, and I tried to claim my sister's room when we first moved in. I'm like, that one's mine. But my sister got to it first, and she got the cool fan with all the spotlights, and it's just I got the crappy room. And I remember just really just terribly uncomfortable. I got goosebumps. I would feel sick in my room. I would literally just feel like something in there hated me. Like it wasn't fun. I was especially terrified of the closet, and that might have been because I was like 12 or 13. Like maybe I was like 14 when I moved. It might have just been that, the age where you're like, I don't like my closet. My closet's still spooky. Maybe I should have I should have outgrown that, but I didn't. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now, but I just felt very uncomfortable. Long story short, very, very, very uncomfortable. My room was always freezing cold, and yeah, and so we moved in, and the day that we moved in, I remember this very clearly. I had my boxes stacked up against this wall. I had 5 or 6 big boxes, the really big ones filled with books and stuff, and my clothes, and they were heavy, and I had them all stacked up against the thing, and we all piled into my mom's van because we were getting ready to go to lunch or something because we just finished unpacking and stuff. We paid the guys. They brought everything in. No furniture yet, just boxes. And so we were thinking about going out to lunch, and then I told my mom, wait a minute, Mom, I forgot my coat upstairs. And I went upstairs, and my coat was in the same spot, but all the boxes that were against this wall were scattered. And, not at all in the order that I put them up again. They weren't stacked up nicely against the wall. They were just all over my room, and, like, on their sides and stuff. Like, somebody just come through and pummel them. And that terrified me. And I thought my sister had done it. I thought that maybe Lauren was still in the house. That's my sister, Lauren. I thought that she was still in the house and that she screwed up my boxes. And I came in, I got mad at her, like, really? You could have broken something. I have glass stuff and blah, blah. I was really mad at her because I really did think it was her. But my parents were like, no, she's been in the van this whole time. What are you talking about? Shut up, get in the car, we're going to lunch. And that creeped me out. And, I unpacked some of my stuff, but not all of my stuff. And, the stuff that I unpacked over the next couple days would move around whenever I left the room. Even if it was just for a couple seconds. My room is right here. The bathroom is right here. There's just an itty-bitty 3-foot hallway where it connects. I would be in my bathroom. I wouldn't hear a thing. And I'd come back, and my room was not, like, rearranged. The heavy stuff was still there, but the light stuff, like, books, jars, stuff like that, they were really out of place. Like, they were on the floor, or, like, they would switch spots. Sometimes stuff on my walls would move. Sometimes, like, it would go from being like this to, like, tilted like that. And that would be weird. Please don't fall. And there was that for a while, and that went away, and then I went a couple years without anything else happening. Like, I tried to ignore it, it went away, it was fine, and so everything was all good. And then I remember that I rearranged my room for the first time since I moved, and I guess whatever's in my room didn't like the way I rearranged it. I don't know. But, my cats all of a sudden, like, they love my room. And then, just overnight, the second I rearranged it, they refused to step foot. They would hiss, they would scratch. If you tried to carry them in, they just couldn't make it past the door. They would do anything in their power to stay out of this room. And, over time, they did start to, I did get them to stay, but I'd get them in the room and I'd shut the door, and they'd be just hissing and attacking the door, trying to get out. They didn't want to be in here at all. Something was really wrong, and animals have that sixth sense or whatever. I don't know. So that was terrifying. And the first night that I got my cat to stay with me in bed, oh my god. So my bed wasn't on this side. It was on the other side of my room where my fish tank is, and I can probably just show you real quick here. My bed used to be where that fish tank is, just against that same wall. And my cats, the one cat that I did get to stay, who's my youngest, his name is Jack, he would look at this wall, which is opposite of that wall, and he would just watch something just slowly across the top corner of my room. And, like, he'd just watch it, and his fur would get up on end, his ears would go back, he'd start to growl, and it was so scary when he got to the wall that I was on, because whatever he was watching started going down, so it was kind of like he was doing this. And, he started looking down where I was, and when he looked at me, he made eye contact with me, and he hissed, he screeched, and he ran, and I felt just mega goosebumps. I was terrified. And it wasn't because of my cat, it's just something overcame me, and I was terrified. I felt afraid for my life, and so I bolted out. I was like, I can't do this. It was like 12, my dad was getting ready to go to bed. I ran down the stairs, and I'm like, Dad, something is in my room. I know that you and Mom don't believe anything that's paranormal, but there is something in my room, and Jack is terrified of it. And my dad didn't make fun of me. He was like, alright, well, sleep downstairs for the night. He didn't believe me, but he saw that I was obviously in no condition to sleep and get comfortable, so he's like, sleep downstairs, sleep in your sister's room. And I did. I took over my sister's room for about 2 nights, and whenever I needed clothes from my room, oh, no. I always had my door shut. Always. Because I didn't want to see my room. I didn't want to think about my room. I was just mortified by whatever was in my room. And when I went in, every time I went in my room, I kid you not, I had my sister come in with me. And she felt just as uncomfortable. And I always shut my door, and once I'd been gone for about 2 weeks, I'd taken over my sister's room. She was mad about it. I was sleeping on her floor, making noise. She didn't like me being in there. I was way too old to be doing this, but my door, I would start hearing it open in the middle of the night from my sister's room. I would hear, that, the creaking noise that doors make when you open them super slowly. They were latched, I know that for a fact, and I hated my cats being in here. I'd never wanted them to be trapped in here because I was afraid that whatever was in here was going to hurt them. And that's why I kept the door shut. Another reason, just to keep my cats out. I didn't want them hurt. And I would hear that in the middle of the night. And so I would run over and I'd check, and I'd see my room. It's pitch black and nobody was there. And my family knew I was terrified. They weren't going to mess with me like that. They thought I was making it up. And so I started locking my cats in my sister's room with me because I was just afraid. So afraid of this. And then eventually my sister kicked me out. My parents said, you gotta start sleeping in your room. You're too old for this, I was this is just a couple months ago. Not a couple months ago. It was like last year. I was probably 15 or 16. I'm 17 now. Halfway to 18. But I was forced to sleep in my room again, and the first night I just felt so uncomfortable. Like, whatever it was enjoying its alone time, and it did not want me in my room, and I had to sleep in my room because my parents just didn't like me sleeping anywhere else. So I slept in my room for the first time in a couple weeks, and excuse me, it didn't go well. I had nightmares, and I had the same nightmare repeatedly for I'd say a week and a half. And I remember telling my boyfriend about this when it was happening. In my dream, I would see my cat at my doorway while I was in bed. I'd sit up and I'd see him, and I'd be like, here, kitty, kitty, and he wouldn't come to me. And I'd be like, Felix, come here, because Felix is my cat. He's my baby, and he loves me, and I'm his favorite. And he's mine. So, I would call out to him in my dream, and he wouldn't come. He'd just sit there and stare at me. And so I'd go and pick him up, and then I would turn around, and I'd see myself still sleeping, and then there was this black shadow figure. And the only way I can describe him is very similar to Slender Man, except for he's not white in the suit. He's just black fog and mist. It's very dense. And the light from, the nightlight in the hallway was shining in my room, so I could see this figure very faintly. And he had super long arms and super long fingers that were, this long, so he'd be, reaching out, and his fingers were like claws that were super long. And this creature would just stand there, facing my body, watching me sleep. And he was, a foot away from my bed. So my bed's, right here, he's, right here, staring at me, sleeping. And in my dream, I was so terrified that I couldn't move. And this dream of me watching him lasts the whole night. It's like you're supposed to have multiple tiny dreams, but no. It's like, I would wake up, I'd be terrified, I would, pull myself together, be relax, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd wash my face, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd come back, and I'd sleep, and I'd have that same dream again. And this happened for, a week, and nothing escalated in my dream, and, sorry. And then after a week, it altered, and I only had one dream that whole night, because I didn't sleep the rest of the night. And this thing that was looking at me, watching me sleep, it turned its head to look at the me that was in my doorway. And, I was still holding my cat, and in my dream every night there's the cat, and I don't know why I pick him up, but I feel like he's important in the dream, somehow. Maybe my sense of safety, I don't know. I need him in my dream. For some reason, I'm desperate to be holding him, even before I realize that thing is there. That's because usually I don't get out of bed for my cat. It's if he's not going to come over, fine, fuck you, I'm sleeping. Sorry. Language. So, the thing turned its head and looked at me, and I woke up. I was in a sweat. I felt disgusting and, unsafe and just, ugh. And so, again, I tried to move into my sister's room, and she wouldn't let me, so I had to continue sleeping in my room. And then the dream changed again. Every night that I had the dream, he'd reach his hand out, and his hand would get closer and closer and closer to my head. Kind of like, what movie was that? Insidious, where they take pictures of the boy, and then, in every picture they take, it's an old woman that's reaching towards him, and it just gets closer. It's like that, And in my dream, this thing, its hand is getting closer and closer and closer and closer to my face. And one night his hand was like just right here against my sleeping face. It was just about to touch me. And I don't know what happened, but that dream just stopped, like, on a dime. I still had bad dreams, but they weren't anything like that. They were just, I started having dreams of, like, family members dying and just really, negative stuff, I had dreams that I hung myself. I had dreams that I jumped off of a bridge. I had dreams that I watched my sister jump off a bridge. They just really terribly, like, they mess with your mind kind of dreams. And I remember having those for a while, and then nothing happened for a couple months. It just stopped. And it's like that feeling of dread and terror, and it had manifested itself on a certain part of my wall. I had a bulletin board up against my wall, like my bed's like on that wall, it's like right here. I had a bulletin board on the wall like right here, maybe, and it just had my school stuff on it and pictures, but, so I had that, and there was nothing special about it, I don't know why, but it was just in that general spot on my wall. I started noticing that my cats would just watch that spot all night. They'd watch that spot with their ears back and their hair up, and they'd be growling at it all night. They wouldn't leave, but they were very angry at that one corner of my room. And so a couple months were by where they'd sleep with me, but I couldn't really get a whole lot of sleep because they were doing that. It's too creepy for you to sleep. And so I always liked having them in there, though, because they were the telltale sign if something was in there or not. And that happened for a couple of months, and then they started doing that eye follow thing where their eyes would start creeping towards my bed, and they'd make eye contact with me, and they'd run again. And so that started happening again, and I got terrified again, and it was just all kinds of no nonsense. And then during the same period of time, I was fed up. I think that, what is it called when they cleanse your house? I thought that was overrated. I knew my parents weren't going to let somebody like that in my house because they don't believe in spiritual things. I don't know. They don't believe in spirits. And so I knew I wasn't going to be able to have anybody like that come to my house, but I was fed up, and I remember talking to my boyfriend's mom, and, she's a really nice person. She believed me from the spot. She understood what was going on, and she was kind of like, you need to just fill yourself with positive energy. You need to think and believe that this thing can't lay a finger on you, because if you don't believe that he's not going to lay a finger on you, he will. I mean, I don't know. I just got tongue-tied. Basically, she said that if I was afraid of it, it could hurt me. If I wasn't afraid of it, it couldn't hurt me. And I had noticed previously that I was waking up with scratches on my body, and I had no nails. Like, I'm trying to grow mine out because I had a terrible nail-biting habit, but I had nothing. Like, they were stubs, and there was no way I could have scratched myself. My cats had been declawed by that point. So, like, I don't know how I was getting those, and I did what she suggested, and it stopped for a while, and it stopped for, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, and this time I've been talking to other people online, and they said that they were having supernatural issues and stuff like that, and I wouldn't say anything about my story. I'd ask them about their story, and this one girl on Tumblr, that I was talking to, that I've been friends with for a while, she had started explaining basically the same scenario. She had dogs, but it was basically the same thing. She had dreams of that thing, and that it was reaching towards her face, and then it did, I guess, eventually touch her face, and then it manifested itself in the corner, not on a wall like mine, but in a corner. So, I don't know. I have no idea. That's the most recent thing that's happened to me. I do remember that I started having those dreams again very briefly for just like 2 or 3 days, and I drew it. I remember drawing it, a picture of what I saw in my dream, like where I'm holding a cat, and there's me sleeping in bed, and that thing is reaching towards my face, and in my picture I drew it, it was almost touching my face, and I wrote on the top, I saw you. Just, I don't know, maybe it was like a coping mechanism. It was creepy. I don't know why I did it, but, the next couple of nights, I felt like whatever was in my room was, like, excited. Like, not just like a, oh yay, she saw me, but like, it was messing with me, and it was happy because it knew it was succeeding in messing with me. It knew that I was dreaming of stuff like this, and that I was thinking about stuff like this, and it was just a disgusting excitement. And I just heard something. I don't know what that was. Now I feel uncomfortable. But yeah, so that's up to date. What has happened with me? I do feel like I don't want to say like I'm a what that noise is. I'm not. It's like something going on the wall. But that's up to date. What my stories are with paranormal stuff, and I don't feel like I have like this extraterrestrial sixth sense or something, but I do feel like I have a good handle on if there's something that's doesn't want you there. I mean that's pretty easy to feel if you're just in regular human interactions. You can tell when you're not wanted. You can tell when you're interrupting something. You just have that ability and that instinct, and I feel like that stands true for me with spirits. And I just know that I didn't feel very wanted by this thing, and I don't know, and I feel like there was two. I feel like there's two, and the reason I say that is because sometimes the experiences that I've had, like with the boxes moving, I feel like that wasn't trying to, that wasn't like anything malevolent. I didn't feel like whatever was doing that was trying to screw with my head and terrify me. I felt like it was like a little kid, like trying to mess with me. You know how like 4 or 5 year olds, they'll mess with stuff while you're away, and then they'll like giggle about it and wait till you notice. It was kind of like that. And I did have stuff moving around in my room a couple days after that, which I mentioned, and I felt like that was more of a child play, because it didn't really mess with my head the same way. I mean, I knew it was weird, and I knew there was something in my room that didn't want me there, but it didn't feel like whatever was there that didn't want me there was the one messing with me. It's like, I don't know, I just felt like it was a child. Or, an adolescent, like 12 years old maybe. And so that's why I think that whatever's in my room, there's two of them. I haven't seen anything. I've had weird dreams recently, but I did think that I would make this my paranormal blog, just to let you guys know. And if any of you guys have any idea what is going on, and your experience with this, or if you have similar experiences, please let me know, because it'd be nice to know that I'm not alone with my experiences. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you can relate, if you liked it, if it scared you. If it didn't, feel free to thumbs down. I don't care. But, yeah. See you guys later.